So in this final video for this series, we'll look at an easy way of applying some additional highlights or lighting effects. I already have established just through my decisions with where the light side of the face is and where the shadow side of the face is. I've already established that the light source is coming more or less from the left side of the composition. I've added a new layer called Accents and Highlights. I'm going to restrict as many of those kinds of details to this layer. Now, if you look at the blend mode for that layer, it has been set to screen, and that was kind of my best guess. I did a few practice strokes, and I found that that was going to give me just another hint of reality, make maybe the parts of the image look a little bit more dimensional. So I will be adding some rim lighting around the edge. See, I'm using a small brush on the edge of that brush to just kind of ride the ridges formed by the sweater. And these are going to build up opaquely, or actually they're going to mix, but there's going to be a little bit of transparency and a little bit of coverage as I apply these highlights. And once again, think about your zoom level. I'm zoomed out pretty far and using a small brush, but I just happen to have enough control to be able to apply that brush where I need to, and at the same time see how those highlights along those edges are working together. Because in general, when you're working on a composition, you have to think about the relationships between different parts of the composition. Right? Ultimately, you would want, at least in general, you're going to want a sense of unity. You're going to want everything to feel like it's born out of the same process, the same vision. So it is like a balancing act. You're going to add a little bit on one side and then subtract a little bit on the other side. Here you're seeing another little cheat. If I wanted to give the impression of there being a slight glow, or some bounce light on a surface behind the portrait. If you look at school portraiture, you'll see something similar. A lot of times there'll be a backdrop with a little light behind it. All I did was isolate the background layer with a selection and then paint a little white into it. And then I'm returning to the rendering layer. So again, because if I'm disciplined and if I'm organized, I'll always have a place where I can deposit some of those medium to darker values. And then something will also happen. Sometimes the size of the brush you choose, if you're running on a desktop or a laptop computer, sometimes you can overwhelm your, I don't know if it's the processor or the memory, but digital painting takes a lot of number crunching, a lot of calculations in order for it to happen smoothly. So the more memory you have, the more RAM you have installed, and the faster the processor you have, the less lag, is what we call it, the less lag time we'll have between when you apply that stroke and when the stroke is actually rendered on the canvas or on the layer. All right. So towards the end of this session, I decided to see if I can add a little bit of texture. Things were looking a little too kind of smooth, kind of airbrushy. So I went ahead and grabbed the smudge tool. And it already had a brush with a little texture already applied to it. If you look at that brush tip, maybe if you freeze the frame, you'll see that it's just made up of a little cluster of dots. And so you can imagine that being maybe the tips of a bristle bristle brush, and I'm just using that at a 58% strength to push the pixels around in the direction of the contours of the different parts of the face where I have those highlights. Just as an experiment. Now, I don't know if this is going to necessarily improve things, but it's just, I want you to see that there are ways of introducing more what we call painterly effects in your work. And it can be done in a really subtle way, or it can be done with, a lot more drama, a lot more boldness. And then I said, well, if I'm going to use that sort of a treatment on the face, why not have it also work into the background? So I'm isolating or selecting the background just to protect the pixels where I don't want things to be painted, but this feature will sometimes pick up pixels, I don't know how, or it'll seem to pick up pixels from the areas that are protected by the selection. So it could be dragging pixels from, I don't know how it's making a decision, but you can see that it didn't just, well, it has to kind of leave a color behind when you drag with it. So I guess sometimes it chooses a lighter color. So that is the smudge tool. If you're running an application other than Photoshop, look around. There might be, if not a tool, also called the smudge tool. There will likely be something similar. If you've had an opportunity to spend time at a museum, with beautiful paintings, historical paintings, you know that you can get up really close and study the brushstrokes themselves and taking notes. There's a smart technique someone told me about. Is just basically take with you, if you can buy, if there's a painting you like and you want to study it and take notes on it, look for a postcard of that painting in the gift shop and then take that postcard back into the gallery and then take notes on the postcard and then kind of compare the print against the actual or against the original, so that you have some information to take home with you. So the combination of taking notes and observing that original can teach you a lot. All right, so we're going to wrap this one up. It's looking pretty good, and thanks for watching.